Welcome to the Sim Racing Paddock. I'm William Marsh, and this is our Assetto Corsa special for Sim Car Rankings. I have picked 3 popular third-party cars developed for Kuno Simulazione's racing sim, and I've put them to the test. I hope you enjoy this video. First up, we have the Formula Fantasy 1 2015 by Formula Corsa Modding. This car, while fictional, has been constructed to meet the regulations of the 2015 Formula 1 season. This means it features a new lower nose that is not really shaped like genitalia, so that's a win for the viewers. The car features a turbocharged V6 engine and the DRS and energy recovery system, while the ERS is not featured in this mod. For the graphics in the interior, I'm going to score them both a 13.5 out of 15. The cars definitely fit in well with the Assetto Corsa and do not look out of place. The car features a generic steering wheel to use, and while I'm not a fan of a generic FF1 wheel being pasted on it, I can enjoy the quality of Formula Corsa modding's work. I feel that the visual backfires on the cars are a little too large because with an F1 car emphasizing energy consumption, I would assume there would not be as many large backfires. However, I am hoping they will be tweaked in the future. Physics for Formula Corsa developed cars have not really sat well with me, with them behaving rather erratically. For an open wheel Formula car, FCM's mod seem to have too little grip in the rear. The FF1 mod seems to have partially fixed it over its predecessors, but it still remains to some extent. I feel that there is something with the rear tires that is amiss, but it seems like FCM is improving. In terms of the feeling of lateral grip, I feel Formula Corsa has it nailed. You can feel exactly where the car is going in the corner and where you would like to put it. For the physics, I scored a 17.5 out of 25 due to the issues I brought up, but if they resolve the issues, I feel we could have a great feeling car on our hands. For sounds, while I'm not a fan of the modern 6-cylinder F1 cars, I feel that Formula Corsa has done a proper job bringing them into Assetto Corsa. The cars have the grunt that a 6-cylinder engine provides, and it sounds properly mixed, which I feel is something that isn't great in these modern sims. It has a good atmospheric sound in the sim, and very little digitization. I score the mod sounds a 13.5 out of 15. Damage for Assetto Corsa in general, which drops down to the FF1 mod, is one of the weaker aspects. Assetto Corsa's damage is still not fleshed out on the mechanical side as much as R-Factor 2, so impacts will not damage the engine, and suspension damage is hit or miss. However, when the car does get properly damaged, it can be difficult to drive in an authentic way. The FF1 mod does a decent job of simulating mechanical damage, but as of right now, parts can't fall off, including wheels. I feel that is a major detriment to the damage, so I scored it a 9.5 out of 15. The default setup for the car is quite drivable, once you train your right foot not to mash the gas. You have a very good feel for the car going through the corners, and you can place the car where you want most of the time. I would advise tweaking the differentials to try to minimize wheel spin on the throttle, but besides that, it is a great setup, so I give it an 8.5 out of 10. For paint schemes, I have to give FCM credit. They have done a great job recreating a lot of the paint schemes for the Formula Fantasy 1 mod. However, it is slightly disappointing that many of the paint schemes are based off of the 2014 Formula 1 season, but you have to consider that this was released before the 2015 F1 testing began. I will give the paint schemes a 4.5 out of 5. And that gives us a grand total of 80. While an 80 is nothing to sneeze at, I honestly accept it a little higher from Formula Corsa. I feel the physics admittedly need some improvement, and if they do that, that could definitely get us closer to an 85 or even around the 90. Add in enhanced damage if Kunos plans on bringing it in, and we could see something great. Next up, we have the 2013 Chevrolet Corvette C6 R EGT by United Racing Design. This is a free car that is part of United Racing Design's Endurance Racing X EGT5 mod. Originally released for R-Factor 2, this car was ported to Assetto Corsa by Sandro X. Sandro X had developed a reputation in the past for making illegal conversions to racing titles, so it's pretty nice seeing him work on some legal stuff now. While the Corvette did look good in R-Factor 2, I have to say it looks even better in Assetto Corsa. The car takes advantage of the Assetto Corsa graphics engine and shows the full extent of the detailed model. The interior is also a work of art as well, featuring a functioning rear view camera. I feel the interior could be somewhat improved, with some textures being not as great. For the car model, I give it a 13.5 out of 15, and the interiors a 12 out of 15. For physics, it's a hotly debated topic whether Assetto Corsa or R-Factor 2 is superior. A unique situation is that the Corvette is released on both platforms. As of right now, however, I would say that R-Factor 2's version is superior in regards to physics. Assetto Corsa's version of the Vette has too much grip in my opinion, and it takes a lot of effort to get into a slide or to spin. The car feels overly planted, which is in stark contrast to the somewhat lack of grip in the Fantasy Formula 1 car. I give the physics an 18.5 out of 25. The sounds of the C6R are also a step up above the R-Factor 2 counterpart. The sounds have more of a grunt to them, and it feels much more like a growling V8. There's some digitization in the sounds, but it doesn't detract too much from the experience. External sounds, however, are noticeably quiet, which is somewhat disappointing. It is a little weird being able to hear birds chirping over the sound of a 5.5 liter V8. If the external sounds were boosted, that would make the car that much better in replays. I score them a 12.5 out of 15. Damage is another aspect that is hampered by Assetto Corsa's engine as of version 1.0.4. Mechanical damage is solid when it works. Smacking the wall will cause your steering to be out of whack. However, like the FF1, you are still not able to encounter terminal damage from an impact, only from over-revving the engine or misshifts. Visual damage suffers from the same issues that cars in Assetto Corsa have, where some parts are too sensitive and some are not sensitive enough. The car can also fall victim to the sugar glass windshield, which is common in Assetto Corsa vehicles. I score damage a 9.5 out of 15. The default setup for the Corvette is very drivable, likely in part due to the relatively easy physics. I find it very easy to put the car where you want, and find it difficult to unsettle the car. The car has a good sense of how the weight is transferred, and modding the setup will create noticeable changes. I scored the default setup an 8.5 out of 10. The paint schemes for the Corvette are solid, albeit limited. There are 3 liveries available for the car, but 2 liveries just feature different numbers and nothing else. The community has done a solid job adding more custom paint schemes, but out of the box it is limited. I scored the paint schemes a 3 out of 5. That gives us a grand total of 77.5. The car is definitely a step up above R-Factor 2's in terms of graphics and sounds. However, the physics feel simplified and it makes the car almost too easy to drive. To improve the physics as well as the damage would bring it closer to the mid-80s in terms of score. It is still a solid car and fun to drive in its own right. It just takes a little bit of work to make it one of the greats. Wrapping up our Assetto Corsa Sim Car Ranking Special is the Lamborghini Miura P400 SV. This is a unique third-party car because this will be the 3rd community vehicle to be adopted as official Assetto Corsa content following the Shelby Cobra and the Chevrolet Corvette C6 R, which is coming soon as Dream Pack content. Kuno Simulazioni recently announced that they had obtained the Lamborghini license. and they included the Miura as official content. This marks the second vehicle the Miko and Pinky Kappas have worked on to be absorbed by the sim. Like the Cobra, the Miura is one of the most visually impressive vehicles to be made by the community. You can clearly see the work devoted to the car, especially in the interior. You can see every stitch in the leather clearly, and that is simply mind-blowing. There are minor issues with shadows and reflections, but the car shines where it counts. I give both the car model and the cockpit a 14.5 out of 15. The physics for the car are totally different from the two previous cars, in a good way. While the other cars feel very precise and snappy, this car feels how you expect a 50-year-old car to act. Even though it's classified as a supercar, it features heavy steering and is almost boaty at times. The car feels authentic and is still a challenge to drive at the limit. If you treat it wrong, it will shed no tears putting you in the grass. I scored the physics a 23.5 out of 25. The sounds were made by Katrino's cat, and he did a great job with them. The car sounds authentic, especially the howl of the 3.9-liter V12 engine. I even feel the sounds of this V12 beat out the sounds of the Ferrari 599 in terms of authenticity. While the interior sounds are of good volume, the exterior faces the same pitfalls of the Corvette, with it being very silent. Hopefully the sounds of the mod will be balanced before it is re-released as official content, but as it is, I rank the sounds a 13 out of 15. The Lamborghini Miura's damage falls into the same issue as both the cars I reviewed before it. While you do not want to damage a beautiful car such as this, mistakes happen, and this car can be damaged. Thank goodness you're not wrecking the real thing, though. The mechanical damage is very hit or miss, with heavy impact sometimes not even affecting the suspension. The glass can shatter all too easily, like other cars as well. I ranked the damage a 9.5 out of 15. Many people may complain about the default setup for the Miura. However, they need to take one thing into consideration. This is a road car, not designed for track driving. For what it is a fairly drivable setup. Provided you don't drive like a maniac, you can do a decent job of putting it where you'd like to, and you can even slide it through some corners. I rank the default setup an 8 out of 10. The paint schemes for the car are very nice as well. The car looks good in almost any color, and a lot of Lamborghini's original colors were recreated for the sim. There aren't any racy schemes, which I feel is a good thing. I'd like to leave that to community, and we can enjoy the original colors this car was designed for. I give it a 4.5 out of 5. That gives us a grand total of 87.5. We have a new leader for our sim car rankings, stealing the lead from the Celica GTO IMSA by 6.5 points. This is well deserved, with you being able to see how much work was poured into the car. I hope you enjoyed this latest version of Sim Car Rankings. Which car would you like to see me take a look at? Let us know in the comments. If you like this video, please press the thumbs up button below and subscribe to us so you can see the latest videos. Check us out at simracingpaddock.com, where our daily blog will keep you in the know of the latest going on in sim racing. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter so you can get the latest updates as they happen. For the Sim Racing Paddock, I'm William Marsh, and you have a great rest of your day.